For most of human history, nobody woke up to go to work. Nobody opened their eyes in the dark and owed part of their life to a schedule. Before employment, the day was not an agenda. It was light, cold, hunger, movement, waiting, memory. It was the body listening to the world before the mind had learned to measure it. Today, many of us touch a screen before we touch the morning. A hand reaches for a phone. A face turns blue before it sees the sky. The day begins, not with the world, but with a system asking for attention. And maybe that is where a loss begins. Not a loud loss, not a dramatic one. A quiet loss, so ordinary that most of us barely know how to name it. The ancient world was not soft. It was not innocent. It was not easy. Survival required strength, danger, hunger, cooperation, and very precise patience. The sky was information. So was silence. So was the direction of wind through trees, the shape of tracks in wet soil, the taste of a bitter plant, the weight of a cloud before rain. The body measured time through heat, thirst, shadow, and fatigue. Our time is measured by a number that refuses to wait. A clock on a wall, a deadline on a screen, a calendar divided into colored blocks. We still read signals, but most of ours come from systems, emails, alerts, meetings, reminders, metrics. A life becomes a series of things to answer. But before that, many signals belong to the landscape, not an institution. The ground asked for attention. The weather asked for memory. The body asked for rest. Waiting was not always wasted time. Sometimes, waiting was skill. To wait for an animal to return, to wait for fruit to ripen, to wait for the fire to catch, to wait until fear became knowledge. Today, even eating can feel like an interruption. A meal beside a laptop, a bite between messages. A body being fed while the mind remains clocked in. But there were human days when learning did not interrupt life. A child watched an adult shape stone. A hand failed, then tried again. A gesture passed from one body to another. Learning meant watching, failing, repeating, belonging. It was not a module, not a training video, not a task separated from experience. It was life teaching itself. Look at the hands. Before clocking in, they were already thinking. They made tools. They repaired. They carried. They gathered. They held children. They made fire. They painted stone. And not everything human served survival immediately. A shell bead does not fill the stomach, but it says something just as ancient. I am here. Someone wanted to be seen. Someone wanted to be remembered. Someone wanted a body to mean more than hunger. Thousands of years later, other hands still count. But now they count hours. Access, targets, permission. A card touches a reader. A green light flashes. A door opens because a system agrees that the body may enter. Ancestral life knew failure too. A hunt could return with very little. A storm could ruin a plan. A child could go hungry. A mistake could matter. The past should not be romanticized, but failure did not always isolate the individual. Food was divided. Knowledge was shared. Fire made a circle where fear could be spoken. Fire was not only heat, it was theater, school, shelter, memory. In its shadows, night learned to tell stories. Today, our glass also casts shadows. Office windows hold reflections of bodies working close together, yet alone inside separate tasks. Dozens of people under the same light. Each person answering a different demand. Each face lit by a private screen. Play was not the opposite of learning. A child lifting a branch was rehearsing the world. A small correction from an adult could become a future skill. But we rehearse too, inside grids, calendars, timelines, dashboards, goals. The circle becomes a square, the day becomes a container, and the container fills before the body can ask what it needs. Painting an animal was not a waste of time. It was memory, desire, fear, teaching, presence. A painted line on stone said, "We saw this, we feared this, we needed this, we imagined beyond hunger." Imagination did not vanish. It learned to hide. A small drawing in the corner of a notebook, a thought during a meeting, a story postponed until after work. Before archives, memory had a face, an elder by the fire, children leaning close, a voice carrying what no object could hold alone. Today, we store more than any ancient village could imagine. And still, we often remember less together. Maybe the hardest image to accept is this: a group resting without guilt. Bodies under shade, a child asleep, adults speaking softly, with no one proving that the moment is useful. We often rest with the mind still clocked in. The body stops, the system keeps speaking. A notification in the dark, a task remembered too late, a tomorrow already entering the room. Then, slowly, human time began to change owners. Seeds fell into open palms. Agriculture promised permanence, stored food, settlements, a future that could be planned. And this was no small gift. To store food was to defeat one part of fear. But what can be stored can also be counted. And what can be counted begins to require watching. A field becomes a boundary. A boundary becomes a claim. A claim becomes an obligation. The circle of the season gives ground to the grid. More food allows more people. More people require order. And order can protect. It can also be obeyed. Specialization refines skills, but it can narrow days. A hand repeats one motion, then repeats it again. The work becomes better, but the day becomes smaller. The line was not born yesterday. It only changed architecture. A path into a settlement becomes a line into a glass building. A mark in clay becomes a metric on a screen. A watcher by the grain becomes a manager under fluorescent light. The modern clock does not only measure time, it captures it. It turns a quiet hour into something suspicious. It turns exhaustion into personal failure. It even turns rest into a strategy for tomorrow's output. Our ancestors feared the night too. They knew darkness, cold, hunger, uncertainty. We filled the night with light, but we did not always learn to rest. Archaeology does not find hours. It finds remains. A tool says, someone solved a problem. A bead says, someone wanted to be seen. A painted animal says, someone imagined beyond hunger. An access card says, someone sold their time. All of them answer the same ancient question. What is human time for? One age answered, to move with the world, to learn from others, to remember together. Another age answered, to plant a future, to store, to build, to protect what tomorrow might need. Ours too often answers, to produce measurable value, and inside that answer is progress, but also loss. It would be dishonest to call civilization a cage. Civilization gave us hospitals, trains, libraries, clean water, warm rooms, safe children sleeping through the night. It gave us shelters our ancestors may have dreamed of, but it also taught us to confuse safety with constant availability, and availability with worth. It taught the body to feel guilty when it was still. It taught the mind to translate quiet into failure. Our ancestors were not waiting to be made complete. They were technicians, artists, caregivers, storytellers, social bodies. They repaired, they listened, they played, they taught, they rested, they belonged. And we still are these things. When the system lets us remember, this is not about returning to the past. The past had pain, danger, loss, fear. This is about asking what still belongs to us. Attention. The body, friendship, imagination, the ancient need to gather without turning everything into performance. The grid has not erased the circle completely. Sometimes it returns during a walk with no objective. In a hand making something that does not need to justify itself. At a table where nobody is proving their usefulness. In a child drawing an animal that has lived in the human mind for thousands of years. Maybe we were not born to earn permission to exist. Maybe we were born to move, to make, to rest, to teach, to imagine, to belong. The day before jobs may not be gone. Maybe we carry it inside. Not as history, but as habit, as breath, as the hand reaching for wood instead of glass, as the body noticing light before instructions, as the quiet refusal to let every hour become evidence. Work is not the enemy. But a life cannot be only output. Tools extend us, but they should not replace the question. What is useful in a child's drawing? Only everything that keeps imagination alive. A table can still become a circle. Silence can still be shared. The city remains. The clock remains. The grid remains. But they are not the whole world. The body has older answers. Not against time, but against being owned by it. We are not only workers. We are hands, memory, hunger, care. We are story, and no system can fully erase that. Permission was never the same as belonging. The door is small, but the decision is ancient. The forager is not gone. The child is not gone. The animal on the wall still finds paper. The circle is not decoration. It is how a body remembers it is not alone. So the question becomes personal. What part of the day can remain human? What part can be left unmeasured? What part can simply begin? Before the agenda, before the demand, before the proof, there was always a morning before work, and maybe some part of us still wakes there. Not gone, just waiting inside the body,